Spiraling out of control and deeper down the rabbit hole. Hello there everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Elliot Webber and welcome back to the little mini series that I'm doing on my channel. Welcome back to Do You Remember, as I mentioned just now, the series on my channel where we look back at a driver from about 20 or so years ago and we talk about their career and see if any of you do, of course, remember them. And in episode 3, once again, we're looking back 20 or so years ago, and we're going to be seeing if any of you remember Luke Hines. So let's get straight into this. Now, Luke Hines made his BTCC career technically in 2003, racing in the production class of the BTCC back in 2003, because of course from 2000 to 2003 there was this production class, or a class B, for drivers and teams who couldn't really afford to do the main BTCC championship, and also it was to boost the numbers on the grid as well. So Luke Hines debuted in that. He debuted with Barwell Motorsport in an EP3 Honda Civic Type R. Barwell Motorsport, as some of you may know now, they are the factory Lamborghini team in the British GT Championship with Rob Collard, Ricky Collard, Alex Martin and Sandy Mitchell, I believe, are the current drivers in British GT. So yeah, of course, some names who you should remember. So he debuted with Barwell Motorsport and he had a phenomenal rookie season in 2003. He took 7 wins, 17 podium finishes in class, I should mention, in class. His best overall finish was P11. Again, obviously, with this multi-class format, it is a little bit difficult, but his best overall finish was P11, and as I mentioned, 7 class wins, 17 class podium finishes in only 20 races. It was a phenomenal rookie season for Luke Hines, albeit there wasn't that many production class cars in 2003 as the Class B format was slowly being phased out. But even so, 7 wins, 17 podiums, against some top drivers. I remember Tom Boardman was in that. I believe a driver called Norman Simon, who some of you might remember. So there's no doubt that Luke was against some talented drivers, especially Tom Boardman, who already had previous experience in the BTCC in the production class. So yeah, Luke Hines definitely had some competition in the production class. Gavin Piper as well was a driver I remember being in that Class B, the production class as well, in the Alfa Romeo. So Luke definitely had some competition. So for him to win the production class championship in his rookie season, it was a phenomenal drive. And that, because he won the production class, it meant he did earn himself a drive into the main BTCC into Class A, although it would just be the BTCC, as the production class unfortunately was no longer continued for 2004. And for 2004, Luke Hines joined 888 Racing, or the Vauxhall, the factory Vauxhall team at the time, and he would be partnering, I don't know who. Oh yeah, only Ivan Muller and James Thompson. Big teammates to have in your official rookie year. Of course, Ivan Muller was at the time the reigning BTCC champion, and James Thompson was, of course, the champion before Ivan Muller in 2002. So yeah, pretty good teammates to be around, but also a very good team to be around as well, because of course, as we know, from 2001 to 2004, Vauxhall 888, they were the best team to be at the time, as of course they just Red Bulled it, essentially. They dominated multiple years of BTCC purely because they had the best car and the fact that the other manufacturer teams couldn't really catch up to them. And that would be sort of the same. Vauxhall, once again, would sort of dominate. Of course, not dominate completely. There were multiple race winners throughout the year, which included Ivan Muller, of course, James Thompson, a returning Jason Plato, Colin Turkington, Anthony Reid, Matt Neal, Dan Eves and Tom Chilton taking their first wins as well. Rob Huff as well in his first season. So there would be a ton of race winners throughout 2004. And also included in that list is, of course, Luke Hines. Luke Hines would take a maiden BTCC win at Brands Hatch, I believe in race 3, I think. So his 6th ever race, I believe it was back then. So a phenomenal job by Luke, and I do believe he would take another win later on that year. I can't remember what track though, but yeah, I do believe Luke would take 2 wins in 2004, along with a couple of podiums as well to go with that, and he would finish out 10th in the championship. So not too bad of a rookie season for Luke Hines, but considering where your teammates were, 1st and 2nd in the championship, it's yeah, it's not terrible, but obviously it could have been better given how he was in essentially the best car with the best team. But as I mentioned as well, 2004 was much more competitive compared to 2001 to 2003. So yeah, after that, moving on to 2005, there were unfortunately less teams, less drivers on the grid, which meant less cars, unfortunately. But we did see some new cars and some new faces. Of course, Team Dynamics would bring in the Honda Integra DC5, my favourite ever touring car. The factory Vauxhall team would, of course, move on to the Vauxhall Astra Sport Hatch, or the hatchback version, to promote that. Seat in their 2nd year would go from 2 cars to 3 cars, with Jason Plato sticking on, and expanding into that 3-car field would be James Pickford, moving up from the Seat Cupra Championship, as of course he won that series in 2004, he had earned himself a factory drive. Rob Half, however, would not be on the grid in 2005. He would move on to RML Chevrolet program in the World Touring Car Championship, and of course would stay in the World Touring Cars for many years to come. And Vauxhall as well, as I mentioned, Luke Hines' former team, they would remain with 3 cars, but almost a completely different lineup. Ivan Muller stayed at Vauxhall for 1 more year in 2005, but he would be joined by Colin Turkington and Gavin Smith, another driver who some of you might remember or forget. I don't know, maybe that's another video for the future. So yeah, so with Vauxhall having a new lineup, where would that leave Luke Hines? Well, Luke Hines would essentially swap the first manufacturer team for the other manufacturer team. He would move from Vauxhall to Seat for 2005, as I mentioned, partnering Jason Plato and James Pickford. And despite there being less cars on the grid, it was actually statistically a worse season for Luke Hines. I'm not too sure why he didn't perform better than he did in 2004, but he could only muster up 1 win, and I believe just 1 other podium, I believe, was his statistics for 2005. Multiple point scores, multiple top 10s, because of course there was only about 16, 17 cars, actually less than that in some rounds for 2005. 2005 was a poor year for entrants, similar to this year almost. So Luke Hines, I'm not too sure whether he couldn't delve with the Toledo as he could with the Astra. I don't know. But yeah, it does seem like that Luke didn't perform as well as he did in 2004. But even so, still a race win, top 10 in the championship, 9th place in the championship for him. Still, that's not a bad year. But again, when you consider the fact that Jason Plato, his teammate, won multiple races that year and was an outsider for the championship, and then you also look at the fact that he actually got beaten by his rookie teammate James Pickford in the standings. Not by a long shot, there wasn't a huge gap between them, it was still pretty close, but when you're in essentially your 3rd year, you shouldn't really be being outperformed by your rookie teammate, although I'm sure Pickford was actually backed by Seat compared to Luke Hines, who I think was just moving there because he could. So yeah, and then for 2006, unfortunately, that would be the last we would see of Luke Hines in the BTCC for now. Luke Hines would move on into British GT, racing with, I believe one of his teammates was Tom Kimber-Smith, a notable British GT driver back in the day. So yeah, he's had some decent teammates, and he's been on and off in the British GT those past couple of years. Researching this, he did partial seasons in 2013, in 2012, 2013 and 2014, where he would actually get a podium in British GT at Rockingham in the latter year, 2014. And speaking of 2014, cut through a long time, almost, what was it, 8 years, I think? Or 9 years, sorry, should I say, since we last saw Luke Hines between 2005 and 2014. Luke Hines would return to the BTCC in 2014, only for a partial season again. He only did, I believe, 9 races or 6 races, I think. One or the other. It was 6 or 9, I can't remember. He either did 2 rounds or 3 rounds. I'm pretty sure it was 3 rounds though. So yeah, Luke Hines would return to the BTCC in 2014 with United Autosports in a Toyota Avensis NGTC. Some of you may recognise United Autosports. They are another prominent team in the world of GT endurance, because that is Zach Brown's race team. Yep, Zach Brown, the same Zach Brown that currently is leading the McLaren charge in Formula One, and of course is technically the factory McLaren team in the World Endurance Championship. They unfortunately DNF from Le Mans last week, a big shame for them, but they did win LMP2, so congratulations to United Autosports for that win. So yeah, so Luke Hines again returning part-time in BTCC in 2014, unfortunately could not score any points. I believe there was just only 3 top 20 finishes along with 2 DNFs, so unfortunately not the best of returns for Luke Hines. But again, as I mentioned, 2014 compared to 2005, 2014 was so much more competitive, with multiple race winners and of course Colin Turkington winning that championship in 2014. So yeah, I can't really find anything else he did past 2014. I do know I believe he still has a race team called All Stars Racing, where he has supported a deaf racing driver who I believe was 10 years old at the time in 2018. So yeah, that's all I can really find. I'm not too sure what Luke Hines is doing nowadays. I'm not too sure if he is still racing or if he is just managing a business or a race team or a karting team, as I mentioned. So yeah, I actually do believe though, I do believe he was at Snetterton a few weeks ago for BTCC. I'm not too sure. I think he was there. I can't really remember, but if he was, then I obviously missed him. But yeah, that is pretty much it, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you remember Luke Hines, and what do you remember of him? Do you remember any of his race wins back when he was at Vauxhall and Seat? Do you remember his return in 2014? Or do you actually remember him in the production class? Or even if you're old enough, do you remember Luke Hines before he was in BTCC? From my research, he was a prominent single-seater racer before switching to BTCC. So let me know in the comments below. Of course, if you're new around here, be sure to like this video, share with your mates as well, because it of course does help my channel grow. And of course, press that red subscribe button, because we are firmly on the road to 300 subscribers. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.